Great. So, welcome. My name is Ross Yelsey. I'm with the Office of Admission and Financial Aid here at Columbia Journalism School. I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening here in New York, or whatever time it may be in your particular time zone, for hearing more about our part-time Master of Science program. A really great opportunity for people to potentially continue a career and still do the world-class training that our MS program provides over kind of basically 2 years. And I'm really happy we have one of our current students in the program today, Perry Yaniv, who will tell us a bit about the student experience from his perspective. And in a few minutes, we'll have George Miller, actually, right now, George Miller joining us, who is the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs here. I'm just going to plug him in, and he will join us as well. Hey, George, now I think you can talk. Welcome to the conversation. Perfect timing. George, if you wanted to say hello to the team and tell them a little bit about your background at the school.
Hello, my name is George Miller, and I'm sorry to be late. I am the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, and if anybody knows what an Associate Dean does, you can let me know. I'm a graduate of the university. I went to the journalism school, graduated a long time ago, worked as a journalist for a long time, and have been working in higher education for just about as long as I have worked as a journalist. So thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, George. For people watching, if you've gone to our other sessions, you might know we kind of give an overview of the curriculum for a bit, talk a bit about some of the opportunities to study that you can, partake of in our program, and then we'll leave it open for some questions at the end that you can add in the chat. So that's kind of the format. And today is, getting to the end of October. Just keep in mind that the deadline to apply for this cycle, for this program, as well as our other programs, is December 15th, which means that you have basically a month and a half to put together an application if you are thinking about joining the community here at Columbia in the next year. So plenty of time. We really are happy that people come to these conversations and learn more and get informed about what the right fit might be for them in terms of the program. So going back to the part-time, George, as people are thinking about how this works, can you explain a little bit about how we do this program in a way that works with someone who might have a job that they're keeping at the same time?
Yeah, Perry could probably take this one better, but the majority of our classes for the part-time students run in the evening. And so you'll see most of your classes are going to meet on Wednesday nights for reporting, for investigative techniques. You'll have some options when it comes to some of the other classes, written word, seminar, and production. But essentially what happens is you'll do the part-time program spaced out over 2 years, where the full-time program, you would knock it out in 9.5 months. The part-time programs will start at the same time in the middle of August. You'll get started with some training sessions and orientation and stuff like that. You'll launch into your classes in September. You'll take one class per term for the most part, and we can go through the visualization later. But you'll take one class for most of the time. The big difference with the part-time program is that you do your master's project in the summer in between the first and second years. And so in for the part-time students, you'll take critical issues, which you'll take with me, which is an ethics class for the most part, but it's mostly discussion based. It's a lot of fun. And then you'll work on your master's project. And the nice thing about that is that I'll work with you starting in the spring to find an advisor who is suited for what you want to do, whether it's the content or the distribution system. And then we'll be kind of in communication throughout the whole process.
Mhm.
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, and just for kind of an overview of like who might be this, what people might be best suited for this program in terms of their kind of background and goals, in terms of how they would kind of fit into this type of experience.
Yeah, this is we build you from the ground up. From the reporting, from your time in the reporting class, we will really give you the basic foundations. What is journalism? What does it mean to be a story? How do you find stories? How do you develop sources? How do you interview people? And then all the way through, we'll take you step by step through the process. A long time ago, I think a lot of the students who came to the journalism school tended to come with more experience, whether it was in communications or journalism directly. But these days, we see people who come from all over the place. Some of our students will have great levels of experience, some won't. And so we really try to understand who our students are and we build from there. And then, the goal is ultimately to graduate you at a 10. So you are a superstar ready to fly. Whether you start at 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 or higher, we'll get you to 10 by the time you graduate in 2 years.
Thanks. And now turning over to Perry. Perry, like several of our students every year, you are a employee of the University of Columbia University. Could you tell us a bit about what your motivation was for wanting to do this part-time program on top of your work at the university?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really do appreciate getting a chance to talk to you. I think that one of the main reasons that I was drawn to the program was simply because it was this sort of amalgamation of a lot of different interests that I have. And one of the main things was really learning how to engage with people, to learn different ways of communicating story, different ways to be interested in what was newsworthy, and really find ways to improve things like listening skills. For me, I've been working for the medical center up here through the university in clinical research that I've been doing for over 20 years. And so the opportunity to go back to school was sort of almost overwhelming one for me. And so it was really a opportunity to find something that wasn't just going to be in a completely different direction, but something that really would utilize the skill set that I've been working with in my day job, but also as an actor, which is something else that I do in addition to my job. So this really was kind of like the ultimate goal for me, was to be able to get a degree in something that was not just transmutable, but something that was going to really push me in a bunch of new directions. And it has been doing that in every way, shape, and form.
Great, and we'll get into some more details in a moment. But George, as you alluded to, we have a visualization that might help people watching this better understand kind of how this would look, on a year-to-year basis. So we'll share my screen in a second, take a look at that, talk in kind of broad strokes of how we kind of build your skills over that time. I know we could probably spend maybe 3 hours going, by detail into every like particular aspect, but we'll do kind of a more of a bird's eye view, I think, to give people just a general sense. I'm going to share my screen here. Great. And so maybe we could talk just in terms of how we break the kind of 2 years out, George, in terms of what you kind of would start the program with in that first year, and then what the summer looks like, and then kind of as the second year unfolds, what people will be doing then.
Yeah, so the reporting class is a basic reporting class, like I talked about. You'll learn what is a story, how do you get the story, how do you talk to people, how do you develop sources. You'll get into that will be the crux of your program, really. What you learn in that reporting class really should be the foundation for everything that you do through your 2 years in the program. You'll do the reporting class, and in the second half of the fall semester, you'll take a class that we called written word. Every year, we usually offer 16, 17, 18 different options for the written word class. And so it's everything from sports writing to copy editing to long form narrative writing, writing about climate, writing about science, and just about everything in between. Um, so you'll do that for the second 7 weeks of the fall semester. During the spring semester, everybody in the MS programs has to take two seminar and production classes. And so in the spring semester, you'll take the first one, and in the second year, you'll take the second spring seminar and production class. The seminar and production classes really break into two different categories. There are seminar classes that meet once a week for 3 hours a week, and those classes are often topical. You'll take business or you'll have options. We usually offer around 30 some odd options every semester, 30, 35 options. And so you'll have options for, telling stories in sound, telling stories in video, telling stories in a multimedia fashion. We have things like sports writing. Again, we do climate environmental reporting, business and economic reporting. Really, pretty much anything you could imagine, it exists there in some fashion. The seminar classes will meet for 3 hours once a week, and we have production classes that are a little bit more of a heavy lift. And so for the part-time folks, you have to figure out, what suits your life. We also offer some classes on Saturdays, and so there's usually a handful of production classes, audio or video classes that meet on Saturdays.
Mhm.
In the summer, you'll take critical issues with me. That's a 7 week course. We'll meet for 3 hours a week, and it's essentially ethics. But the idea of ethics in journalism today has really evolved because, between technology, between the business of journalism, the evolution of, who's in the White House, everything changes in regards to what we do as journalists. And so we really talk about the past and the history. We talk about what's changing and what's causing the changes in journalism. And then, ultimately, it's really on the students to decide what is ethical or not in this day and age and as we go forward. And so those are the conversations that we have. At the same time, the students will get started on the master's projects. The master's projects are generally long form comprehensive reporting projects. This is journalism that you're doing. It's not doing an academic research paper. You will go out and probably interview 10, 15, 20 people, if not more. Some students will do their master's projects in audio, sound, video, audio, video, images, data, visualizations, or a combination of all, including words. And that will take you through the summer. And so that's usually due at the very end of August.
Mhm.
Then in the beginning of the second year, you'll start with investigative techniques. And investigative techniques is sort of what reporting is, except it's a deeper dive into data, databases, understanding how to do FOIA requests, Federal Freedom of Information Act requests, and how to get information from various sources. It's pretty amazing. I think Perry and the cohort this year had a guy named Justin Elliott. Justin won a Pulitzer Prize a few years ago for his coverage of for ProPublica in talking about Clarence Thomas and his wealthy friends.
Mm.
So in the second half of the second fall, you'll take an image and sound class, and the image and sound class is 7 weeks of pretty intensive audio, video, data, or photography. Which then should set you up again for your second seminar and production class. And also you'll do a journalism law class. It's actually called Journalism Law and Society. And so it's really understanding the law, but really understanding more about the impact of how the law is applied on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And then in May, you graduate.
Cool. Thanks, George. And so, yeah, as George was saying, Perry, you're about here right now in the curriculum between investigative techniques and image and sound. As you look back now on this first year and a quarter or so, what are some of the highlights, experiences, classes, projects that you've worked on?
Um, it's really the faculty. I mean, I love my cohort very much. We get along fantastically. I've met phenomenal students through the full-time MS program and the MA program. But being in a room learning from people who are working journalists really just is a huge honor. We've also had some fantastic speakers come through who just sort of uh, sometimes contradict what we think the field is like right now. Other times, we really do get a sense of what journalists really do go through in terms of trying to get their work together, get their work out there. And it's just a very real process. I think we were told very early on, this is almost like a trade school. Like you're learning a trade that has so many different arms and tentacles. Like you can really just focus on one thing. But my experience so far has been pretty broad, and it's really just opened up my eyes to not just how journalism works, but how journalism works in the world right now, and how deep that really goes. And so being in a room with someone who's won a Pulitzer, or I mean, in one case, I think for a seminar class I took last spring, our professor, we had a field trip to DC, and our professor was on a Zoom call uh, as the Pulitzers were being announced, as he was also helping us interview like these health, people, these people in the healthcare industry. And this is like, stuff that no one in any other program would ever get an experience to do. But like, meanwhile, our professor's like in the corner, like, just being present as his team is winning like this massive award, but like totally nonchalantly downplaying it while we're, he's there for the students. And that was very, very profound and fun. And yeah, I think that the main gist is, there are a number of, nights where I was up till 1 a.m. doing homework, but it was all in service of, really trying to get my work to a level that I felt like my professors would be, proud enough of to pass me.
Mhm.
But just to go back to a comment that Dean Miller said, there are so many opportunities to choose from every single semester for the most part, that it's almost like an embarrassment of riches. And I keep hoping that I fail so that I can stay in this program longer and keep taking more classes, because all of them are winners. It's really, really a phenomenal program.
Well, I guess the bad news is it's very hard to fail here. So I think you're probably gonna have to,
I'll keep trying.
graduate, get that degree. But before we ask George another question, I was going to ask Perry about the hands-on kind of quality of the education because maybe if you're thinking about some other academic part-time programs, maybe you're thinking, oh, I have some books I need to read next week, or a paper I have to write, or a kind of a midterm I'm going to take. How is that different from what we do here in terms of actually having to do journalism on the side, getting sources, going out and getting information like that?
Yeah, I would say it's the opposite. I was expecting a lot more handholding. I was expecting a lot more like, okay, we're going to learn this thing and I'm going to show you how this works and we're going to really like, make sure that you're comfortable. No, it's like, okay, here's the thing, go do it and come back and show me what you come back with. And that's where you're learning. And it's really almost like, what's that line from I think this movie where he's like, "Oh, we're gonna jump in the water and see if you can swim." He's like, "No, no, no, I'm gonna throw you out a plane and see if you can fly." Like it's really just incredibly hands-on to the point where you are not just learning techniques, you're not just learning reporting, you're learning yourself in a way that is incredibly I think life affirming. Like you're really just kind of going and you're doing it and it's fantastic. If as long as you trust that your professors are not misleading you, I think there's a level of trust that the students have of the faculty here that is really special because at the end of the day, these are future peers, these are future employers. It's very much business oriented, and so all of the techniques that go into any arm of this really goes to the fact that you just have to be bold enough to trust that they're not going to let you fail and you're going to do what you need to do and you're going to learn a ton in the doing. It's not a theoretical program, it's a practical one.
Great, and that leads me to a question for I think you and George. So for a student coming into this program who may have either a traditional kind of job, a 9 to 5, or have some other type of work where maybe they're their own boss and they have time, how much time should you plan to carve out to have to do the reporting, to have to do this kind of, actual, hands-on reporting on top of your career? Like, how should you like approach the timing for this?
This is my favorite question to answer simply because I turned into a planning nut like about a decade ago. And so I like keep track of like multiple calendars, multiple versions of my life that have to somehow all fit into the same timeline in terms of whatever's going on in the multiverse. And so between my full-time job, which is 40 hours a week, and this program, but then in addition, I have other stuff like, something that I think is a life plus my acting career. I really make sure to try to get my hands on the syllabus as early as possible, budget an additional, I would say 10 to 15 hours a week that maybe not all of it will go towards the actual, practice of, doing homework, but it's really more of like a buffer or like creating cushion time to find sources if someone falls through, if someone flakes out, or oh, I didn't get this assignment till the Saturday after class when it got posted on a Thursday, but that there's enough cushion time to get it done comfortably. And it's surprisingly flexible. I was astonished at how much time I actually still had for myself. But there are weeks where, there's deadlines coming up and you just have to sort of, my advice to students is always build as much buffer time as you can around deadlines when things are due. So that involves, talking to supervisors or bosses to maybe get a little bit of extra time off of work, or maybe taking a day off if you really need it. But that your deadlines have enough time around them that when everything does fall apart, as it often tends to, you aren't going to be having a panic attack like the day something is due. You can have it like 2 days before something's due, and then you can fix it. And there's enough time to solve. And the professors are all, of course, incredibly understanding, but a huge part of this program is getting things in on time, like in the real world. So I think that that's something that it's not so much about the volume of time, it's the management of time. So the more flexible or the more kind of heads up you can give to your day job or whatever else is going on in your life, the easier it's going to be for you.
Great advice. George, do you have anything to add about the kind of time management for the part-time group?
No, I think Perry nailed it. I think it just you just got to remember it's not a traditional academic experience. It is journalism, and people are available when they are available, not necessarily when you are, which means if you got 5 minutes during your workday where you can start emailing sources and setting things up for the weekend or evenings or whenever you can find time to do your interviews, take those few minutes and knock those things out as you can.
Hmm. Great. And just a question back to the curriculum, George. I think people, saw or heard that there are classes that meet in the evening. So if you are working like a 9 to 5 job, there'll be some opportunities there. But are part-time students kind of obligated to only take the evening classes, or can you take pretty much the wide range of what might be available by semester?
Yeah, you'll see the part-time cohort is usually a varied group. Some people are only available in the evenings. Some people are commuting from far and away. Some people have unusual schedules where they're only available during the daytime, and so everything that we offer is available to you. The reporting class and the investigative techniques class, as well as critical issues and journalism and society, are dedicated to you. So those are in the evening, and those are just for the part-time cohort. Everything else is completely wide open for you all.
Hmm. Great. And Perry, George mentioned the master's project when we looked at the visualization, which you completed a little while back. Can you tell us a bit about that process of working on that?
Yeah, it was amazing. I got very lucky. I had a phenomenal advisor. I chose something that challenged me, I think, just exactly where I needed to be in terms of how much I developed in my skills with reporting and everything else. Um, it took the whole summer. Like I had a pretty busy summer with work, so I didn't really plan to take vacations, and so I didn't. But it was something that I felt really, really proud of, and had a phenomenal time kind of working through and editing and rewriting and all that stuff. So I chose words with photos, which is, pretty straightforward. I had other friends who chose video, audio, and those have, sort of additional complications if you didn't take the seminar um, the spring before. So it's really like, I think, the only advice I'd give for that is as April rolls around in that first year, really start percolating with what your ideas might be, and then really just make sure that you're comfortable with the medium that you're choosing. I know a lot of people come to the school with previous journalism backgrounds, so if you work for a podcast or if you already work in video, like awesome. But for me, it was definitely like words and photos was definitely what I was gonna have the most valuable time with. But as an experience, it really was wonderful. And I'm happy it got done in the middle of the program as opposed to the end, so that now I can just really enjoy the rest of the curriculum and not have to freak out about some massive final project that, you know, it's already taken care of.
Hmm. And was that, I mean, is that the subject of your master's project, was that something you had kind of thought about earlier when you first applied, or is it something that developed kind of as you got to know kind of what's out there as a student here?
It developed as I got to know sort of what my options were, what felt reportable, what felt newsworthy, and it was something that uh, is also, I think, pretty personal for me. So I definitely felt invested the entire time.
Hmm. Great. And one thing about this, the curriculum, we talked about how, it's very intensive, it's very hands-on, it's very, you have a lot of deadlines, a lot of things to turn in. It's also a pass-fail grading school. So like all of our programs at the master's level at Columbia, you're not really concerned about getting an A or a B or whatever in the classes. How does that maybe change the way you can approach work or taking on more challenging or ambitious stories?
Well, Dean Cobb said it perfectly, I think, during our orientation, is that you get out what you put in. And I think that it's definitely something where, yes, it is pass fail. And yes, if you do the homework, you'll pass. But I think it's really up to the student to wonder, like, is this something that I feel is better than it, would have been if I just did like a slapdash job? Like, am I going to go back and edit this because it's something that I actually care about or believe in? And nine times out of 10, even if I'm tired, even if I just want to get it done, I'm always going to go back and reread, and I start tinkering, and then I start editing, and then something occurs, and in my mind to make it better. And so that sort of level of engagement is something that came pretty naturally to me. But I think that it's incredibly important as we're exercising these skills to really do the best we can, simply because in the field you don't have that luxury a lot of the time. You just need to get it done. And so um, addressing, quality control in your own work, I think is very valuable, and it's something that I think the student needs to bring. It's not something that the professor is going to sit and sorry, is wait a second. Can you see me?
Yep, still good.
Okay, great, great. Um, that ultimately, the professors um, might sit down and address this with you in office hours, but ultimately, the quality of your work is really up to you.
Mhm. Great. And George, I thought I would just reiterate for people who are, in attendance right now or maybe watching this video later. I know that people coming to the full-time program and the part-time program have a wide range of, ambitions and things they maybe want to explore at the school. So some people might want to learn really great audio skills to make a podcast, or video skills to make videos for work or for a new venture they want to do, or they want to become stronger writers, both for their own kind of projects or maybe for the work that they do professionally. What kind of things are available kind of under the umbrella of MS here that they can do? You mentioned some of those seminar and production classes, but what are like kind of the avenues they could potentially go on in this program?
Yeah, I mean, we do everything. We're modern journalism, and that is multi-platform, platform agnostic. It's deep, heavy reporting, verified information, factual-based information, and that's what we focus on. We have a lot of people who do long-form writing as faculty members. We have a lot of video people who do documentaries. We run everything from audio investigative podcasts to long-form narrative podcasts and everything in between. It really is just a feast of options for you. The great difficulty is that you can only take, what, 10 or 11 classes over the time here. And so what we try to do is we try to make our faculty and some other programming available to students at all times. I should tell Perry that in a couple weeks, we're going to start offering just a free 4-week session on audio, video, data, or photo training. Just because, the part-time folks don't always have the options to take a lot of these other classes. And so we're dedicating a couple weeks of additional training for them, and actually for our Master of Arts students who also don't have the time built in. And so these are just things that we do additionally. During the daytime, we often have events between noon and 12, excuse me, between 12 and 2, which is a period where we don't have classes. Our classes run usually from 9 till 12, 2 to 5, and 6 till 9. And so we often do programming between noon and 2. And sometimes that's topical, sometimes it's career focused, sometimes it is skills training. On Saturday this week, we're doing a pretty amazing full day event with the data visualization people from The Pudding, which is this really great website where they tell stories in the most unusual fashion, and it's really fabulous. I mean, some of the most talented, innovative storytellers will work there or contribute to The Pudding, and they'll come and they're doing a free all-day session for our students and for the J School community. We also do training in the evening between 5 and 6. We'll do anchor tests and really just about everything else. So you will have so many opportunities to get involved in so many different ways.
Great.
That's actually something I'd like to add, Russ, because it is, in addition to leaving enough time to get your work done, there's so much going on every week at the school that you want to sort of stay available, because a lot of times things will get posted maybe a week, maybe sometimes two beforehand, and you don't want to have too much competition for your time that you can't just sail in and make it, especially if you work for the university or nearby the campus. It's an incredible way to spend your lunch hour, just sort of like, watching people who are in the field really making impact with their work will come to the school and speak and are incredibly generous with their time. And so it's something that I've been trying to take advantage of the entire time. And I highly recommend just trying to leave your schedule as open as possible so that you never have to miss something that you really wanted to go to, or a journalist you really wanted to meet from a publication or an organization that you are trying to work for. So definitely, again, it's like just sort of surrendering time for this program is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. So yeah, if you can be around the area and can take advantage, you're very much welcome as a part-time student, as the full-time students are, to take advantage of all the career events, all the programming we have for just learning more about the profession, having big conversations about issues related to journalism all year round. If for some reason you are watching and maybe you're not going to be able to come in as often, we've had people before. I think many years back there was a flight attendant based in I think in Atlanta who would fly in just to come once or twice a week to do this and manage to make it work. So I don't think they could always go. But the good news is, even then, we do record a lot of the career events and some of the other events that you can, then watch later if you can't always be here, especially on the careers front. Perry, maybe just going back to the curriculum too. How did you approach these choices that George has talked about? There's a lot of things you can explore here. Did you have a strong sense of certain skills you wanted to get? I know you took an investigative class last spring, but did you kind of know that's what you wanted to get, or how do you have you decided what things to kind of pick from as you get these choices?
That's a good question. I think I had to cry a little bit when the course listings were released last year because there were just too many phenomenal options, and there was no way I was going to be able to choose without literally having to sacrifice something else that I would love to have taken. But ultimately, because I work in the healthcare system, for me, it made a lot of sense to take something that was healthcare related for journalism, because that is something I'm trying to imbue into my job here. And the big draw for me was the professor, and so it just was like this, and it was probably the hardest class I'm going to take. And the reward was fantastic. I really learned a lot, not just about journalism, but about healthcare. The professor again was, he did not disappoint. The syllabus alone was, you need like a PhD to just read the syllabus. It was fantastic, um, but challenging in all the right ways. And but yeah, there was a lot of competition for like, oh, I could just take this other class and it's all right. But no, I was like, no, I want to challenge myself. And investigative work is a completely different, it's like calculus and math, where it's just a completely different way of thinking about story, what is, and it needs to be investigative story. And sort of just even that slight shift makes actually a humongous difference in how you report and how you approach stories, who you're approaching in terms of interviews, and it just is the gift that keeps giving. It was really phenomenal, but a lot of work, and so I committed myself to that, and it definitely did not disappoint.
Mhm. Great, thanks. And Perry, the advantage of being a part-time student is, of course, you have classes, as George mentioned, that are going to be specifically for the part-time cohort. So the people kind of coming in with you, the reporting, some of those other classes. But, the investigations class you just mentioned, you were with MS students as well in the full-time program, investigative specialization students, a whole kind of range of students from the data program potentially too. So you get to know the wider community and you get to know basically your cohort and two years of the full-time students because you get, those, in succession. What is it like to kind of be a part of this community that, is, students from all over the world, all sorts of backgrounds here?
It's enthralling. I mean, I really had such a wonderful time working with people who were in the full-time MS program who were really just kind of wrapping up their time in the spring. And again, there's enough other stuff going on on campus that you will cross paths with these other students throughout their time, but to actually be in a classroom with them, or rely on each other for sources, or rely on each other for ideas, or hear how they think about something with, I was in a class that had a lot of investigative reporting students in it from the Stabile Center, and just listening to sort of how they were thinking about a particular story idea or about a particular topic was really valuable. And then they graduate and they go and they start working almost immediately, and those are very valuable connections. um, and then amongst my cohort, we're very tight. We all get along really well, and we're constantly sort of, we have our own little group chat, and we're batting ideas off each other. I think your most valuable resources are your fellow students, because someone's going to know someone that you can talk to about this idea that you have for a story, and that type of communication is so valuable because it's the most immediate thing you're going to have.
Mhm. Great. I'm going to give the floor over to our attendees in a minute to ask some questions. But before that, one big question for George. If people are interested in applying to this program and they're kind of wondering, what are you looking for? Basically, what do you look for in a strong application to the part-time program? Is it any different from what you look at in someone for the full-time program?
It's not altogether that different. We look for people who are going to be committed, who are curious, who understand what journalism is, and who appreciate what journalism does for society, for democracy, whether it's here or around the world. We're a mission-driven organization. We exist to serve people. Sometimes we entertain them with fun stuff, and sometimes we inform them through deep, heavy content and important information. But we are nothing without the audience. And so, what we look for are people who are dedicated to the craft and understand that it is not a pathway to riches, not a pathway to fame or glory. It is really about doing work for people. And, we want to see people who understand and appreciate that.
Great. And will it matter if somebody's totally fresh to journalism? Like, this is like going to be their first real foray going out there and doing this type of work?
Nope. Nope. I mean, I think if you have experience, it'll make you stand out. Whether that experience is as a comms person, social media, or as an influencer, all of those things count. You're connecting with audiences and you're doing valuable work. We would then talk to you about how do you take that and magnify that? How do you amplify that into doing, this important societal level information work?
Mhm. Great. So if any of you have questions, now is the time to put those in the chat. You can address them to me, Ross, the host here in the chat, and I can read out any that are pertinent to the conversation. So please feel welcome to throw any questions in there in case you have them.
Or they could just ask. We got a small group, yeah.
I think I made the setting not
Oh no.
possible for them to do that, but hopefully, here we go. Um, let's see. Here's a question about what do graduates do after they finish the part-time program? May they incorporate their skills into their current job or maybe make a job change? I imagine all those possibilities are out there. George, do you have any insight into that?
I mean, it's interesting. The majority of our full-time students are probably more interested in going into journalism or some sort of communications level industry. A few students who graduated last year were really looking at social media communication type jobs. We have a handful of part-timers right now who come from the university who work in communications, and they're talking about ways that they can, either take these skill sets and apply them to their jobs or pivot into different positions around the university or elsewhere. I think the there are no limits to what you can do with the degree. We have some people in the MS full-time program now who are here because they want to learn how to gather information and they want to learn how to communicate effectively because they're interested in going to law school. A journalism school is amazing training for law school. Being able to gather information that's difficult to find and then present it in ways that are interesting, informative, and persuasive. Those are skill sets that are especially valuable in many different industries.
Great. A question about how to maybe approach like your employer, like what kind of conversation should you have in advance? I think Perry hit on this a little bit before about talking to employers about what kind of commitment you might need to make to do this program well. How would you advise about maybe having that conversation?
Um, I'm very fortunate that I have a very supportive team that I work with. I do clinical research, and I've been doing that for a long, long time. And I think it's really important because journalism is such a broad, it can be so broad, that it's important to maybe as you're completing your applications, to really think about what other skills bridge between whatever it is you're doing and journalism, and I'm sure you'll find something. For me, it was sort of having a conversation about how can we get the medical research that we're doing beyond just scientific papers and publications like, New England Journal of Medicine or things like that. And for me, part of what we're doing here is very much about healthcare justice, access, environmental justice, things like that. I work mostly with children who have asthma, teens who have asthma, families that are very low income. So it's something that I was able to link pretty quickly and sort of pitch the benefit of not just having these cultivating these other skills, but also the connections of being able to help get things published in a sort of broader populace. So that for me was a big part of it. And also, I just hoard my vacation time usually. So I basically had some stored up, and I actually haven't really needed to use it that much because I'm able to plan around my days and around the clinic schedules. So I was blessed with sort of like a flexible enough schedule to make this work. But I think the conversation really needs to be about not just how is this degree going to help me, it's how can this degree help you, my employer, in terms of the skills I'll be able to obtain from this that can then benefit the overall job that we're trying to do here together.
It's great advice. Great. Are there questions out there?
By the way, I did two graduate degrees part-time, and the most important thing for me was to tell my employers that it was not going to interfere with my work. I would get my work done, and I would not reprioritize my life, but I would do everything as I needed to do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
I
it
think
was
it's great
brutal, but it worked. It was
to.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that may come up sometimes is for someone who's working, there might be a real, important class you really want to take here that is like, say, like I say, a broadcast or a video or a podcast class, which maybe meets for several hours during kind of normal daytime working hours. So, getting that conversation sometimes started to talk to them if there's a way to get, that time off to maybe make it up in a different way. And maybe another thing I think
Mm.
I've heard other people say is since it's a 2-year program, if there's something you really want to take that kind of meets in daytime hours, maybe save that for your second year, and then you've kind of built up some time doing things here, and you maybe have a little bit more advantage asking for that, time to do that special class that second year too. Great. And let's see. In terms of like the cohort size, in terms of how many people we usually have here, George, I'd say it's maybe like around somewhere around 20. Is that about right? Per year?
Yeah. I mean, 16 to 20, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah.
So it's a pretty tight crew, I would say.
Hmm.
Great. Any other questions we could take before we wrap up? All right. Well, the good news is if you were looking at visualization and you couldn't remember all those details, it's on our website. So if you go to our webpage and go to the part-time program and just scroll down a little bit, you'll find that in the curriculum tab. So you can see the visualization and kind of be able to study that, get a sense on how the 2 years would look here in the part-time program. And as I mentioned, December 15th, which is still a far way off, at least it feels that way to me. I'm sure we'll be there before we know it. Is the deadline to apply to this program. So please check in with our team at apply.journalism@columbia.edu or with George, who kindly put his email there too. If you have questions about this program or what might be the right fit for your particular goals, we're happy to have that chat. We'll also be opening our scholarship application in a week or two, and we'll be letting people know about that, which you can apply to whether you're applying for the full-time or part-time options. So thank you very much, Perry, for all your insight into what it's like to do this really cool program. And thank you to George for giving us such a great overview of what the part-time program experience is like.
My pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Good luck, everyone.
All right, have a great
Yeah.
evening, and we look forward to being in touch soon. Have a great rest
Yeah.
of your night. Bye.
Come
Take care.
come by and meet the students.
Yeah.
You're definitely welcome to. Okay.
See ya.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.